What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, looking at some OCG lawn mowing next door Infernoids. They have hit the OCG and they're actually making a little bit of waves. If you guys are Infernoid fans and you just kind of miss being able to play the deck because reasoning with the one and you thought the deck was pretty much dead at that point, you might just have to hold on a little bit longer until Raging Tempest comes out and you might have yourself a very viable deck. In the OCG, I want to say it is possible that this deck could be contending for, I don't know, maybe a top 5 spot. I don't think, and I don't want to imply that this deck is going to overtake like Zodiac Beast or ABC, because I don't think Infernoids are that strong, but I do think they're strong enough to kind of stand on their own two legs. Now, Infernoids got a very significant boost with Raging Tempest, and I don't just mean the obvious lawn mowing next door, being able to mill 15, 20 cards in your first turn, which is definitely super significant for Infernoids. It basically has the same type of impact as Reasoning, but a card like Void Madness is just super good, and considering the card is searchable from Frozen Void, or Void Banishment, it's actually really good. And the thing about it is, I know some people will look at Void Banishment and they'll be like, Cap, I gotta discard a card, but you gotta think about it. There's a reason why so many people play discard cards in a deck like Infernoids, because so many of your Infernoids can activate from the graveyard. Your Stydamus, your Onu, Devati, Antandale, all of these big dudes, they can just summon themselves back from the graveyard. So you can easily search Void Madness. You can get 3 Infernoids straight from your deck. You can activate their effects, and Infernoids might actually have a pretty significant role in the meta, just because I would imagine that they have an extremely strong ABC matchup. In fact, there's actually a reason why you guys have probably been seeing Infernoids pop up over the last couple of weeks or so. I know Infernoids actually topped YCS Minneapolis, and I think 2 Burning Abyss Infernoids top regionals over the weekend, and this is post ABC being legal, so obviously it means that they can at least match ABC. They can at least contend with them on some level. I think a lot of it has to do with the DD Crow effect. Still feels extremely powerful. It used to just kind of be good against decks like Blue Eyes, against decks like Burning Abyss. If Blue Eyes wanted to summon from Azure, you could just kind of banish their guy. If they wanted to use Return to the Dragon Lord, you could just banish. If they wanted to go for a big soul charge play, just banish Burning Abyss, things like Seer and Dante, when they target, just banish those cards. But against ABC Buster Dragon, we've already seen how powerful cards like Ally of Justice Cycle Reader can be against ABC, because if you Cycle Reader them, you kind of set them back a couple of turns. It makes it extremely difficult for them to be able to get to their ABC Buster Dragon. But if you're playing an entire archetype of DD Crows, anything your opponent does in ABC, the second them fucking things at the graveyard, just banish them, and it'll be extremely difficult for your opponent to get to those ABCs. And considering Void Madness can summon 3 guys at once, that's 3 potential that's 3 potential DD Crows your opponent has to think about the entire time. Now, I know some people are going to look at this and like, oh, come on, Cap, this is an OCG deck list. This is not going to translate to the TCG, because yes, there are some obvious differences. Honestly, you can ignore things like Feather Duster and Dark Hole. I mean, this would probably become Regeki in a TCG, and Feather Duster is a big deal, but when almost every Infernoid variant runs triple Twin Twister, I don't know how big of a deal that is. You're running Lila as well, so Spell and Trap Destruction shouldn't be that big of a deal. And if you're thinking that this was a deck that only took like 1 spot, like, no, you just go ahead and go to YG Organization and look at Lawn Mower Noids, and I was like, I wonder if that's Infernoids with lawn mowing next door. Absolutely. I was like, oh, okay, there's a deck. And then there's another one. And then there's another one. And then there's another one. And then it's at this point, we're just freaking DJ Khaled. And another one. Like, it seems to be a very significant deck. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the whole power of just having DD Crow built into every one of your monsters. Now, you see the obligatory Fairy Tale being splashed into Infernoids. This is something new for Infernoids, because to my knowledge, no one has ever played a card like Fairy Tale, and I think you would imagine that it would just kind of conflict, like, hey Cap, why would I want to banish my Infernoids to summon Fairy Tale Snow when I want to banish my Infernoids to summon other Infernoids? It's not so much about Fairy Tale Snow banishing your monsters. A lot of it has to do with the Spell and Trap, because think about when you were playing Infernoids with like triple Reasoning, anytime that you milled any of your spell and traps, you really never got any value out of that. With a card like Fairy Tale, who's to say you don't mill this with the Lawn Mowing Next Door when you activate it? So you end up getting this in the graveyard early, and then all of these spells and traps, which a lot of them you run 2 and 3 copies of anyways, you can actually put these cards to work. And what's cool is you can kind of beat around the whole level restriction, because your Infernoids obviously have the whole level and rank restriction, but Fairy Tale Snow does not. So you can obviously summon your Infernoids first, you can get to the 8-star cap or the 8 rank cap, and then you can summon your Fairy Tale Snow, and then you can do like an Exceed play, you can do a Synchro play, or what you can do is you can attack with your big monsters, and then you can banish those, and then you can summon your Fairy Tale, and you do that during the battle phase and whatnot. Now, as again, I'm going to go back to how this deck doesn't translate perfectly in the TCG, but I think that it could definitely work in the TCG. Things like Charge of the Light Brigade being at 3 when it's at 2 in the TCG. They have another copy of Monster Gate that we don't have. But for the most part, guys, like your main core cards are definitely all going to work. The Lawn Mowing Next Door that's coming out in Raging Tempest, the Void Madness, the Frozen Void that can just search Void Madness, the Void Imagination, which I'm not going to lie, this card is not going to be as good in the TCG unless somehow Elder Entity Nethys just comes out very soon. Like if we get it in Raging Tempest, or if we get it as an OCG import in Invasion Vengeance, because we still don't know all of those cards, the play won't be as strong, just because if you guys don't know, basically you can send a whole bunch of Nethys to the graveyard and you basically Judgment Dragon your opponent's field. You just nuke all of their shit. At least you nuke 3 cards potentially, and it's a super strong play because a lot of times it just leaves your opponent open to like being OTK'd. Now, one card that I think greatly benefits Infernoids, and I don't really think hurts them at all, is Dimension Barrier. I'm gonna actually do a full discussion on this card and why it has the chance to be potentially meta defining, because in the OCG, like a lot of the Zodiac Beast players, they play like 3 copies of this shit, because in the mirror match you just flip it over, your opponent summons Malmarat, and it's just like, oh shit, you called it. See, I guess I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh this turn. But anyways, this card is super good because against like Pendulum decks and against decks like ABC, or especially against Zodiac Beast, you can just flip this over. Once your opponent has their 2 scales committed metaphors, you flip this over, you call pendulums. All of a sudden, nope, you can't pendulum anything. You can't summon any of your pendulum monsters from the deck, so you can't even use your traps to summon them. If you use this on like Zodiac Beast, flip it over, call Exceed. Their turn is their turn is basically dead. It's a dead turn, and then you basically just try and OTK them. Like you just try and kill them. And when you have so many cards that get a lot of cards into the graveyard, 3 copies of Lawn Mowing Next Door, 1 Reasoning, even 1 Monster Gate, double Charge of the Light Brigade, that's a good amount of cards. So you guys see, like, you don't even really have to max out on Left Arm Offering, and I think this is cool because we actually are going to possibly start seeing people consistently run 50, 55, even 60 cards in meta decks. I know a lot of people were thinking, oh, come on, Cap, this is just a fun little deck, no one's going to play Lawn Mowing Next Door, it's not going to have an impact on the meta. Nah, guys, I don't know about that, man, because I don't really think that Infernoids have been power creeped, and I think their DD Crow effect is actually just really good against ABCs and really good against like Burning Abyss and Phantom Knight decks. So you guys let me know what you think. Is this deck going to be a real deck? Because I kind of feel like Infernoids are right now in the TCG, I feel like they are just a hair away from being a very powerful deck. Maybe as good as something like Mermail. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Mermail have been on a fucking tear lately. I want to say that Mermail is just better than Blue Eyes right now. That like it goes ABC, Metaphors, and then really Mermail because, the amount of tops and whatnot. And I think that Infernoids have the potential to pretty much get like right there with a deck like Mermail. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. As always, check out YG Organization if you guys want to see different variants. The reason I posted this one is this was just the variant that I liked the most out of all the ones. But I think maybe you could probably throw in like a Vanity's Emptiness, take out something like, well, we won't have Feather Duster, so take out the Feather Duster, throw in a Vanity so you can lock your opponent out. And anyways, I've been rambling too long. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already.